In this video, I'm going to be showing you everything there is to know about CT side on train. Now, the reason I haven't made a video like this in a long time is because I covered all of the maps already, and train just came out when I stopped making these kind of videos. One of the things I realized is that this map was going to change a lot from when it came out to where it is now. Now, with a couple months of pro games out on train, I want to show you how to play every spot. So the first thing that I want you to do as the viewer of this video is to just throw out everything you know about old train and start completely fresh. And the reason that I say this is because although the map is very similar to how it was in CSGO, it's not the same at all. And this is because most of the important sightlines that made train what it was in CSGO are no longer applicable in CS2. And that's mainly because of the changes to how Ivy works, the changes to A site, and some of these changes on B. Although granted, B site is not as different as A site and Ivy are. Oh, and also the removal of the worst position in the entire game. So when I talk about all these positions on DE train, I want you to realize that some of these positions aren't going to be the same as they were in CSGO, and you're going to have to adjust your framework. If you want a safe and secure way to cash out your skins in under 5 minutes, head on over to sellyourskins.com. Sellyourskins.com has over 150,000 users who have used the site already. All you have to do is click the sell tab, select your skins, and use my promo code BIRD for a 5% bonus on your skins. That's BIRD, BIRD. No shady cash traders or middlemen, just a few clicks and you're cashed out to any of the methods you see here. Head on over to sellyourskins.com and use my code BIRD for a 5% bonus on all of your skins. Thank you to Sell Your Skins for sponsoring this video. So the way that train is typically played is you have 4 CTs assigned to outer and 1 CT assigned to inner. And so simply the inner player is just the B anchor or the inner player. And then you have 2 people who start Z. You then have 1 person who's responsible for Ivy, and then some kind of rotator player. This can either be your opper or another rifler. And this rotator is going to play either in Z or camera at the start of the round. So I'm going to talk about A site first, and then I'll talk about the inner player last. Okay, so there's a lot going on at A site at the start of every single round. But there's 2 things that I want you to think about for every round that you play. And if you can think about these 2 things, what it's going to let you do is it's going to let you evolve your play to do whatever you want on each round, whether it's versus eco or versus full buy. Okay, so here are the 2 things you should think about coming out of spawn as all 4 of the A players. The first one is to stop an outer rush, and the second one is to try to take control of deep T-con. I'm going to explain why these 2 things are extremely important on CT side train to have the best chance of winning. So why do I say that stopping an outer rush is the most important thing you should think about? Well, even though this map might seem CT sided, the Ts have a really strong weapon in their playbook, which is to rush outer. So if the Ts can successfully smoke camera, Molotov hell, Molotov back site, and come out all the way this way and kill somebody on A site early, they basically have the round for free. Because the CTs aren't in advanced positions, like playing from Pop Dog, or playing close in hell already here, and they don't have the ability to come up and play close here to stop any kind of potential pushes early into the round. The CTs can only really get to right here before the Ts get all the way out, or the CTs can get all the way up here before the Ts start running at them. So as a CT, what do you have to do to stop this outer rush? Okay, so now I'm going to go over role-specific responsibilities for stopping this outer rush before I talk about taking deep T-con. This is really the hard part of the map right here. Okay, so the first 2 Z players have a responsibility to throw a bunch of nades at T-con. So what you can do is throw mollies like this, and nades like this on the run. And as you can see, this kind of molly will generally do damage to people running out here. And the nade flying on top of here will generally hit 2 or 3 people if they're trying to rush outer. And then since we're trying to play the map properly, you have to consider what the Ts are going to do to you at the start of the round. So a lot of the time, Ts will throw a smoke like this early into the round. And this doesn't have to be the lineup that they use, but the point is that they smoke off sandwich here. Okay, so now that we think about this basic thing that the Ts can do, at the start of the round, you have to decide if you're going to want to run this way towards where this sandwich smoke is going to come out, or towards E-box. Now, if you choose to run towards this sandwich smoke, you're basically hoping that the Ts jump through this with no flashes and you just get free kills, which is almost never going to happen. They're going to try to do other things besides a stupid play like that. So after you dump your nades, you and the other Z player are going to want to come towards E-box in this way with 1 person coming this way and 1 guy coming this way fighting people on the back lines. Now, you being in this position right here as the second Z player, you're pretty open and susceptible to flashes that come through the roof right here. So what can be really good is having your third Z player come here at the start of the round and throw a set flash like this. And so this flash is really good because what you can see here is that as you're coming up here and fighting, this flash isn't really going to blind you that heavily. But since it's popping on this side of the train, it's going to destroy anybody who's in this area as a T. So if they're trying to come out and fight you like this, they're going to get full blinded by this flash while you're not really going to get blinded. You can also just throw pug flashes like this in the same way as long as they go over the train. Because if you throw a flash like this and your teammate's running up here, he can easily fight off this flash and anyone who's in this area is going to get full blinded. And you can honestly throw any combination of nades that you want. What's most important is that you two as the Z players are supposed to dump your nades at the start of the round. So you can also middle click a nade over like this, or throw 2 mollies, one, you know, that kind of bounces in this general area. Maybe not like that. Maybe more towards like this. You really just want to pug these nades, you know? There's not really any set lineups for these kind of things. And I know I'm kind of jumping around here and talking about many things at once, but you have to remember that 4 people are starting outer at the beginning of the round. So it's gonna get pretty complicated fast, but I just want you to take home the fact that you have to dump nades at the start of the round. And so I want to show you this crucial piece of utility for the Ivy player that every Ivy player needs to know. And that's how to smoke T-Con at the very beginning of the round. And since CS2 has no skyboxes, you can easily throw this every single round because there's no skyboxes. So at the start of the round, if you're the Ivy player, you can just come right here, aim just to the right of this right here, walk forward and jump throw, and you're going to hit your head. And this smoke flies perfectly into T-Con. And so if you combine this smoke with all these nades that you're throwing at the start of the round, what this means is that any Ts who are close are going to be isolated by this smoke, and you can come and fight them. And anyone who's playing behind the smoke here is going to have no trade potential on you because obviously there's a smoke in the way. And even if they nade this smoke, they only have a couple angles to choose from while the nade is breaking the smoke, right? They can't clear everything all at once because this is only breaking for a limited time. And so now to kind of complete the picture of the anti-rush, if you're the camera player or the third Ivy player and you have an op, what you can do at the very start of the round is you run here and you can choose to throw a molly like this, that's fine. But you have to remember that this is the crucial line to pick up as the opper. And I think the key timing for this is that the Ts can actually beat you to this angle. So what you should be trying to do is be ready to pre-fire anyone who's playing on this angle like that. And you don't have to be all crazy with your aim like that, just pre-fire this guy essentially. And even if you have a rifle, you should maybe crouch peek into this angle or just be ready to one-tap the guy who's standing at this position, maybe with a deagle or something, because the Ts can come here, post on this, get one shot off and leave. So you have to be ready to kill somebody who's in this angle. Now there's not much that the Ts can do to these two people who are running up close to E-box, which is why rushing outer is actually pretty hard when the CTs are playing it properly. But when you're the Ivy player, you have to remember that the Ts are going to smoke camera a lot of the time. And these smokes are not hard, so expect this in almost every level. And so as the camera player, what you can do is take fights like this where you just come straight through the smoke, like right like this. Because a lot of the times, this smoke will be paired with this smoke, and you'll have to use your best judgment on this, but you can really just run through the smoke and support your teammates right here, you know? If this smoke is up, it gives you a wall that the Ts can't see you through, and so this is a really good spot to trade your teammates from if the other team decides to swing out like this. Now, if you played CSGO, you probably remember that the Ivy player is responsible for mollying Olaf every round, but with the changes to Ivy, you really can't do that anymore, because this box is too high to really get any molly that flies far enough to where it Molotovs all of Olaf. You can kind of do it, but since the CT mollies aren't that great, it's not that good. So as this player, even though you've thrown the smoke at the start of the round and you want to be involved in the fight, you're kind of baiting your teammates and waiting for something that lets you go out. I think one of the crucial angles on this map that you have to remember as the Ivy player is that if you peek like this, the other team actually can't see you if they're playing on this line right here. They have to come all the way out to this angle here, which is pretty exposed to all of these angles. So this is actually a relatively safe fight for this player, because if the other team is just sitting in T-Con, you can just kind of get like pre-fire shots like you could from camera over here if you're this player coming to this angle. It's kind of the same idea, to where it's, you know, you're shooting a fish in a barrel at this point. So now that I've talked about the early round, I want to talk about the second point that I made at the beginning of the video, which is that you want to take deep T-Con control. And so the way that you do that is pretty simple. You just kind of want to throw a smoke generally here and then Molotov any of these annoying positions. So get a Molotov that lands, you know, more deep into here, and then this angle is pretty easy to clear all up in here, and then you have deep T-Con. But you might be asking, Bird, why are we actually doing this? This is it doesn't actually seem like there's much of a point. You have to think about this from the T's perspective. Because if the Ts are in here, and they can play all up in these kind of angles and whatnot, they're kind of ready for an A execute at almost any time, right? They're very close to coming out and peeking you here as a T. But if this is smoked off, and they're mollied out and people die in here, and Ts are forced to play like this, if I'm a T playing this, I'm Googling the nearest bridge because there's like nothing you can really do except for wait out all of these pieces of utility. So there's multiple ways of throwing pieces of utility like this. The obvious easiest way is even if you're smoked right here, let's say you get a kill on people rushing, you can simply just look and throw one like that. If you're this player, you can come to an angle like this right here. You get stuck in this pipe and you just aim kind of right in the center of this beam and just look at this right here and you can see where it lands. It's pretty easy. You look at the hang of it and it lands super deep like that and does the same thing that the other one does. And so what you have to remember is that this smoke is pretty standard. So a lot of people in your games are going to throw this for you. And so since this lands like this, again, similarly to the sandwich smoke, you can just pug smokes through like this and then molly behind the smoke here. Since you have all this control because you denied the early rush, now you're able to clear all these angles and then take this deep control. One of the angles that's super broken if you get into this position, by the way, is right here. And I'm not sure if this is going to work anymore because people kind of have discovered this angle, but I want to show you what it looks like from the T's perspective. So if I place a bot right here, what you can see is that as a T coming in, you actually can't see this player in this angle. That's not a body right there. That's just a part of the map. And so you have to come here and clear this whole thing like this. This angle is extremely deep and it's because of this little crevice that gets made by the box. So this angle is a hard clear for the T's, but a lot of people who don't have enough experience on this map will get destroyed by this angle. Because what they're gonna do is most likely, if they don't know about the angle, they're just gonna walk in. They're gonna think that this is clear because they don't see anybody. They're gonna walk like this and then you're gonna kill them because you're standing right here. Okay, so now that we've taken that control, I want to show you what the ideal late round on train looks like. And don't worry, I'm going to talk about the B player after this, because this all ties together with the B player. So one player is going to be responsible for holding T-con, whether that's being inside or being close like this or being close up here. They're going to want to be playing to hold T-con. So what I want you to think about is the responsibilities of what you actually have to hold now versus at the beginning of the round. So now in the round, you only have to worry about small choke points instead of the other team full rushing on you. So you're going to have one player responsible for T-con, one player responsible for holding Pop Dog, and one player responsible for holding Ivy. And since you only have 3 angles to worry about, the 4th player can rotate to B. Because on B, there's 2 angles that the B player has to worry about, right? There's upper and lower. So let me give you some options for where you're gonna play, and then I'm gonna talk about B side. So the player who finds himself in here, you can play angles like this, and just kind of play super aggro. You can play in here. You can play jiggling here, maybe with a molly out. And that's granted that your team has pop dog control in some way. You can play behind this angle, and this angle is really annoying to deal with because you see how small you are compared to the box. You're actually very well hidden from T-con if you play right here. Even though it feels pretty exposed, you're very well hidden. So you can play angles like this and get kills around this box and just play super annoying. Or you could fake that control completely and just play from back out here. The player who's not responsible for this is going to be responsible for pop dog. So you have to think about how this player is going to be playing, whether he's playing out or whether he's playing in, to where you can play to hold pop dog. So the most aggressive form of this is playing here with a smoke out, or playing in here fully committed, or playing this super strong off angle right here. So I kind of placed this bot in a weird spot, but you can see this shadow right here. So maybe play a little bit further back. But what you can see from this off angle is that T's are going to be more worried about clearing out angles like camera before clearing a weird off angle like this. So I've seen Donk play this angle a ton on pistol rounds and other rounds where he's playing anti-eco or something like that. And this angle is just super strong to hold anybody who's trying to contact out of pop dog right here. So generally the player who plays here is already an aggressive player. And if you like playing this and you're aggressive, then you're going to love playing this position. But if you don't want to do that, you can play more passive back in Z like this, or play back bomb. These angles are really strong right here for a long range fight, or play on the train, and you can get really annoying with some of these angles to hold pop dog walkout. But again, it's important that you just remember where your teammate is playing, because if you're holding this angle like this, but your teammate is playing here, he's gonna die to pop dog, right? He's fully exposed. He can't hold both of these at once. So you have to play in a way to support this player here. Now the Ivy player just has to hold Ivy. And Ivy is such a small choke point that one smoke can block it off. So if you didn't use your smoke at the start of the round, you can start to use it now towards the mid to late round. But there's so many different positions that you can play from Ivy. But what I want you to remember is that if you're playing super committed like this in this general area, you're gonna at most be good for 1 kill and then die. What I want you to try to do is to play in this way where you're jiggling these angles and being able to fall back. And one of the strongest ways to do that is playing an angle like this. And this is something that didn't exist on CS2 Train, which is why I said at the beginning of the video, you should throw out everything that you know about CS2 Train and play for this game. So this angle right here is so insanely strong for the CTs because it's just this really annoying line that the Ts have a really hard time of clearing because they have so many things to worry about when they're walking out of this angle, right? This is not the first thing they're going to be worried about, is this right here. And again, you can play in so many weird, annoying ways as the Ivy player. You just have to remember that you want to try to fall back, or you're going to have to get a multi-frag, which is pretty hard to do. sometimes. But again, this is why I'm yapping about so many different positions all at once, because they're all connected in certain ways. It all depends on what control that you and your teammates get at the early to mid-round stage. And then finally, as this fourth player, you're most likely going to be responsible for rotating towards B in the mid to late round. Because think about it, if the T's didn't go A, and they're showing no signs of wanting to go A, where else are they going to go? B. You got it exactly right. And so when you rotate into B, no matter where you come from, what you have to be worried about is what the B player has been holding. And so if you rotate in, but the B player is only holding lower, the other team could be contact walked out upper and just kill you for free if you're not paying attention to it. So you have to be worried about these people creeping out based on where your teammate is playing. Okay, so finally I'm going to talk about the B player. And this is actually a position that is pretty similar to how it was in CSGO. It hasn't changed all that much. At the very start of the round, what you want to think about is how can I stop a rush and get my teammates to come back from outer and come to inner as soon as possible with the earliest possible info. So what that means as the B player is you're going to most likely run like this and come all the way here and then play to get early info. So something I saw Rops do today, which is really sick, is jiggling like this. Because if you jiggle like this, and I'll place a bot right here. What the fuck? On CSGO, what you remember probably is people jiggling and you can see their head all the way. But on this map, you only are able to see their feet. So there's no chance for them to one-tap you when you're jiggling in and out from that angle. And so when you jiggle like this, you're gonna have a molly out. And then you can easily dump this molly and fall back while holding this angle and kill people for free when they're running out because they're gonna be tagged by this molly. And so remember that this is a position where you're gonna have to be really fast with their util usage and be ready to kill people who just brain dead jump through the molly, okay? People are gonna do that all the time. You just have to expect it. It's not a stupid play. It's the only thing they can really do if they don't want to run into 5 CTs playing on B site. That's like their best option, is to run through the molly. So if you get mad at people running through the molly, you're just bad. Besides the standard starts on B, a lot of the times in higher level games, Ts are going to throw mollies like this at the start of the round. Because one of the strong plays that you can do as a B player is to run here and just kill the guy and fall back. So people are going to throw this molly a lot. Something I saw Rops do today was when this molly is up, you can just come here at the start of the round, throw this molly. And then as you can see, this molly, the other team, if they try to run into pop, they're going to take damage. You can hear when people are upper and when they're not. And so this is a good way to get information on people who aren't necessarily rushing B, but they're just kind of defaulting and jumping into pop. You can hear them do everything if they fall into this molly. So in the mid to late rounds, what you're going to have to do is back up just a little bit, okay? And this is because it's much better to play crossfires with your teammates from further back angles on B site than it is to play super close up. And what I mean is that if you're playing up in here the entire round, and let's say you already used your molly because somebody took contact early, but then they just baited your molly out, right? Now you're just kind of left on this little island super close, and you're really susceptible from people peeking from upper and people splitting you from lower at the same time. So what's best is to try to play angles like back sight here, and you can play really cringe angles like this, or play really cringe angles like this, where you just kind of walk over here and play like this. All you have to do is tell your teammate that they could be out upper. And just play in these like super back ways, because it's much easier to play the round from here and play for the retake on B site than it is to just play with you dying and then having a man disadvantage going into the retake. Okay, so the last thing I want to say about B is that a lot of the times you're going to be holding 2 angles at once, okay? You're going to have to be worried about these 2 things back and forth over and over again throughout the whole round. And so this is why it's really important for your teammate to rotate into B. But a lot of the times, your teammate is going to die at A, and he's not going to be able to rotate in properly like you want him to. So this is why B site is super hard to play a lot of the times, especially in solo queue. But if you're playing with a good team and you're playing with people that you trust, then it shouldn't be a problem. But you really got to get creative on this site. There's so many different off angles that you can play from to just, hold everything or try to hold 2 things at once, and just be ready to be on your feet at all times. Just be always worried about these like lurk outs. You can play from angles like this and just go in and out of these angles right here. This one's pretty strong. Or again, like I mentioned, you can do it from here too. You can just worry about this and then worry about lower, and then go back, worry about upper. Make sure you're tucked in while you're doing that, and then peek lower. You can do stuff like that all the time. So this guide really covered the bare basics of each position, but I hope you came out learning something on the other side. I have plans for showing how to play T-side in every position, so make sure you're subscribed for when that video comes out. And this video also didn't cover any more advanced tactics that you can run with multiple people, but in Face It Pugs, it's really never almost gonna happen. Thanks for watching.